It worked the first time this time. Unbelievable. So, sorry I'm not doing it at 6 o'clock as I usually do. One of my favorite streamers went online just minutes before. So I, stayed in her stream while she was live for 3 hours. And then I finished watching a video that I had been watching just before she went live. So I don't know, maybe I should talk about that video that I was watching just before I went live. Um, yeah, another case picked up by Southern Draw Law, James White, a lawyer in Kentucky, Tennessee. Shared a video of an incident that occurred in New Mexico where a sheriff's deputy got overly aggressive with a detainee, and in doing so sent the guy to the hospital for 26 stitches. And you're thinking, okay, so what did the detainee do? The detainee was using words. He was handcuffed with a jacket on his arms. So, his hands were inside the jacket with the cuffs up above them. He couldn't do anything except, use his mouth. And that pissed the cop off enough that he hit him. He put him in the backseat of the cruiser without a seatbelt, and then proceeded to speed and brake check several times. And then once he got him into the booking area, slammed his head into the wall 4 or 5 times because he didn't like, what the detainee was saying. And then threw him into the cell in such a way that the guy fell over, and probably that's when he got injured and got 26 stitches. The arrestee had no charges. And the cop, another one of the officers that was inside the booking area, reported the incident to their lieutenant, who reviewed it and put the officer that did all the damage on leave pending an investigation, during which time the aggressive officer resigned. Now, that pretty much ends the internal investigation because he's no longer under their jurisdiction. However, that does not eliminate the criminal prosecution, because each one of them, there was 1 assault and 4 batteries. And in New Mexico, they are separate. And because each of them involved a taser or something, being used. So the first one was a taser, the threat of using a taser, that's the assault. Slamming him into the cage by slamming on the brakes, that's a battery. Right? Not once, but twice. Slamming his head against the wall, right, with his elbow, that's a battery. And throwing him into the cage, that's a battery. So 4 batteries, 1 assault. And each one, because he used an object as part of the, assault, or as part of the, contact with the person, it becomes a felony. Right? And they let the guy resign. And there's 6 weeks after it happened, the guy's still walking around free. Well, shit, if any citizen did that, they wouldn't be free. They'd be in jail awaiting charges. Hello, everybody. Hang on. I am going to go to my other channel so I can call up this live stream. Oh, come on. There we go. So I can read your chat on a bigger screen. Hey, Sassy Blogs. Uh-huh. So you might want to take a look at my channel. The Heaven song that you sang on your live stream, I recorded it with my phone and I uploaded it for you. I know that's your second channel. There you go. Oh, you saw it already. Yeah, a little surprised. So, anyway, I can't believe that in this day and age when so many things are videotaped and videos are highly relied upon in courts as evidence, that cops think that they can get away with this nonsense. Just it just goes to show how entitled people think they are when they get that badge and that gun. Oh, hey, Graham. I'm talking about a video that was posted a few hours ago by Southern Drawl Law, reviewing a cop in New Mexico that beat the crap out of a guy, sent him to the hospital for 26 stitches, and was allowed to resign and not get arrested for it. It's disgusting what police are able to do without repercussion, and that's not just in the United States. I've heard that it happens in Canada too. That Blue Line Gang, I think that is the bane of our civilization, that we blindly allow the police to have that power, but when they abuse it, they can't help themselves but protect their brothers in blue, rather than hold them accountable to the higher standard that they claim to have. You either hold yourself to the higher standard or quit saying it, right? They're great at spewing those words, but let's walk the walk. You talk the talk real good. Now your walk and your talk need to align. Yeah. You just caught a massive snapper. Oh no. The other thing that I did a little bit of looking up on today is I'm sure Graham will remember the convoy of 2022, right? That went to Ottawa. Well, they're doing another one in May. They're going back. And I think this one's going to have a little more traction that Carney ain't going to like. even though he, you know, they got a majority government last year, but when you look at the total overall percentage of the vote, they didn't get 50% of the vote. They're still under 50, but it's just, you know, the right was still split. And yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but Carney, I saw one post also, you know, that Carney's going to make it illegal that you know, for someone to post the Lord's Prayer. Really, the government has no business touching anything religious. He wants to classify, you know, the Lord's Prayer as hate speech. The guy's out of his frickin' coconut. Then he better rewrite our Constitution. Oh, wait a minute. He can't do that. Right? Because our Constitution opens, whereas this country was founded upon the supremacy of God and the rule of law. Ooh. So how the truck is he going to manage to get around that one? Because it's the truth, right? That's what the country was founded on. But he wants to, you know, take God out of everything. You can't. You just simply cannot. And there is still a large percentage of the population of Canada that, you know, they may not be regular churchgoers, but they still believe in God. Yep. I know, team. Okay. Oh, okay. Right. An air marshal is suing you for when the seatbelt signs were on and he got injured in air turbulence and he disregarded the seatbelt sign. Figures. You know, people that can't take responsibility for their own stupidity by the sound of it. Yeah, I don't have water right now. I got to go pick up another big jug again tomorrow. Either that or I've got to boil some water, Hardy. Now that's that's another problem with a lot of people in today's society. They can't say, "Oh yeah, okay, you know, I fucked up. I own it. I'll take the consequences for it, and you know, I'll learn from my mistake." Instead, they want to say, "Oh, I fucked up, but you're responsible because I got hurt when I didn't follow instructions." Right? That or use common sense. You know, it's like people suing McDonald's or Tim Hortons or whatever for getting scalded by, you know, from a hot cup of coffee. Well, duh, it's hot. Yeah, you might get scalded. Cops figure they are above everyone, but guess what? Captains are the boss. Yeah, on an airplane, the captain's the boss. I mean, just, but he's got to try and prove that an air marshal is above the captain. He doesn't have to do what the captain says. Yeah. So just keep that air marshal off your flights. That's all. If he's on it, sorry, you can get another captain or you get another air marshal. But he's not flying in my plane. Rocker, yeah, I love that one. Can I sue Canada for getting frostbite? Oh God, wouldn't that be a good one? Yeah. Yep. I think somebody should try that. Thanks for coming in, Rocker. That, and especially with that line, that was just, I needed a good belly laugh today. Oh, oh, jeez. Yeah, it's the state of our society these days. It makes you go, where the hell are we headed? Because so many stupid things you see. But the worst of it is our government. I can't. In yesterday's live stream, I was talking about Romans 13:1. Let every man be subject to the governing authority. For all authority comes from God. And that passage has been so misinterpreted from the original Greek, but very few people understand that God did not sanction government, never has, never will. Just look at 1 Samuel 8. He tells Samuel what to tell the people of Israel when they demand to have a king before Saul was crowned king of Israel. He listed out a whole lot of stuff, that the people would be subject to and what would happen if they got a king. And man, we've got it in spades. Not just a little bit, we've got it bad. But so many people, because of what they were taught in church, right? Or what the church has taught since the late 400s AD, right? Since the writing of the Latin Vulgate, that was what was taught from the church. Government, the kings are given their power by God. No, we were to have only one king, because you need to understand one key thing here. In Greek, king, ruler, judge, God, all come from one word. Okay? Deus. In Hebrew, it's Theos. But, depending on the context is where it gets changed to, whether it's God or king or ruler or judge in English or in the other languages. Because in Greek and Hebrew especially, there was only one ruler. One, there's only supposed to be one power, and that's God. Any other power is usurped power, right? Power that has been stolen from God or, taken away from God without his consent. So, the other thing I pointed out yesterday too, and I'm going to do it again here, is that what God wanted for us was a altruistic theocracy, or anarchy. Altruistic anarchy. We are to rule ourselves. Even Solomon said that. If you are incapable of governing yourself, you will be ruled by fools. Oh, right? And that comes from a king. But he tells us that we are to rule ourselves, or govern ourselves, or be ruled by fools. And damn, we've had a fine pile of fools in our high offices. And the thing is, people think they're the cat's ass when they, but that's because they keep buying us. They keep buying our votes with our money. They steal the money from us. And then they, we'll give it, we'll give you this and we'll give you that to make you feel better. Well, you know something? Nothing can be done so inefficiently as when it's done by a government. Just look at our, welfare system. It costs, for every $1 that is taken for the welfare system, 33 cents winds up in the hands of the people that, need the assistance. The other 67 cents is administrative costs. Right? The people that work there, they're pulling down, high end to, double digit thousand salaries. Most of them are in this between 60 and 90 grand. You get up to the managers, right? They're 100 to 300,000. The upper management of a, and that's in a district, right? And we have how many districts? Just in Ontario, I think it's 60 some districts. Well, even if we just round it off to 60, and each one of them makes $300,000, that's $18 million just in salaries for 60 people, because they have manager, or, and then there's the committees that oversee the operations, because it has to be done by a committee, because the public has to be involved, but they get a healthy stipend for being on that committee. Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, I'm sure, Graham, you remember the ArriveCan app that they come out with there during COVID? Well, that's all gone. And how many millions did they spend on that joke? It's crazy. But it's gone. Totally gone. Um, you know, Years ago, shortly after my second wife took off and left me, and I was not seeing my kids, she left in April. Yeah, it was crazy, that ArriveCan app. When my wife left me in April, Father's Day was coming around mid June. I wasn't going to see my kids that weekend. I decided, okay, you know what? Park it. I've got a Volkswagen diesel. It's cheap to run, right? I'm going to go down and spend Father's Day with my dad. So I did. I jumped in the car and I fucked off back to Southern Ontario. 21-hour drive one way. And I was just going for the weekend. But I had a counseling session. Was it that night? No. I just, I decided I'm going. So I went. And on that weekend, I went to the church where my ex had been going when we met. It was a Pentecostal church right along the shore of Lake Ontario and fronted on the Queen Elizabeth Way near Hamilton. And that sermon that day, and I'll never forget it, the pastor talked about Elisha, not Elijah, Elisha, and the widow with the 2 sons. The widow that only had a little bit of oil in a jar left to her name. And Elisha told her to go and gather as many jars as she could from all of her friends, neighbors, whatever. Gather as many jars as she could and pour. And she poured and she poured and she poured and she filled all those jars that she could now sell because they were full of oil. And his focus on that was that as long as we pour out in faith, God will fill us up. What I saw from that message is what led up to the widow being in that position, that she had to, beg the prophet for help to keep her sons from being taken as slaves in repayment of her dead husband's debt. Because one of the commandments to the Israelites was that they were to care for the widows and the orphans. Well, if she's only got a little bit of oil left and nothing more, not even flour to make a bread, just oil. Where, who, why was she in that predicament? Because the people of Israel had forgotten their duty to the widows and the orphans. They were all about, extracting as much as they could for themselves. Interesting. Different way of looking at that same story. The people had forgotten their responsibilities that pushed that widow into the position she was in and had to call out to God to care for her. Now, God came through in a big way, of course, but that should not have happened. And that is the story every day, today, with our organized religion. If you go to a church and you say, "Hey, I've got no food," well, go to the food bank or go to the welfare office. They'll give you, vouchers to go shopping. But yeah, I know you get free travel, Graham. However, I am only available by air. If you're flying Bearskin Air, they're the only ones that fly into my town, unless you still have your own plane. Winnipeg is still a 5-hour drive away. Or I could slip across the river and pick you up in International Falls. I know there's commercial flights into there. But yeah, if you want to come, if you want to meet up, or maybe I can, you can send me a ticket to come out of Winnipeg. I'll drive up there and or I can meet you in Winnipeg. Yeah. Yeah, and hey, if you like fishing, bring your fishing rod. Fishing down here is freaking amazing. I don't fish myself, but I talk to guys. They'll go out in a boat and they're out for, they'll go out for 3 or 4 hours, but they catch their limit in 15 minutes. The rest of the time, they're just out there fishing and hoping to catch a bigger fish, up the size of what's in the live well. Hello, Abby. I see you there. Welcome. Yes, I am doing my stream considerably later than I usually do it. That's because Hardy was live, so I spent the 3 hours in her stream. Oh, there you go. Oh, I can get rods here from, a half a dozen people. Might even be actually, no, I wouldn't be able to borrow the boss's boat because then I'd have to take the boating course in order to be legal to operate it on the water. But I'm sure I could find somebody that would take us out that knows where to go fishing. Oh, I need another swallow of my nectar. Time to put the lid on and keep what heat is in there still in there. Oh, there we go. Yep. Oh yeah, and we can hire a boat. I know lots of people with boats. There's not many people around here that do fishing charters, but I'm sure I can arrange for a boat and a guide. I mean, my boss, the guy that I do a lot of work for, he's got a bass boat and he's got a pontoon boat and he's got a skiff. So I might be able to get one of the three. And then his son's got a cabin just out of town, about 20 kilometers, right on the freaking lake. A couple of years ago, we had a big flood around here, and it took out a lot of docks, including his son's dock, and I had to rebuild it. Yes, Christina. Hello, Brian. Bryant Wyman. Hello, welcome to my stream. Thank you for stopping by. I can't complain. It's almost 10 o'clock at night and I'm still alive and kicking. Yeah, you need to have a license for any size boat, including a jet ski. Yep. Motorized watercraft. I mean, it's only $40 or something stupid like that, and it's an online course. It takes about 90 minutes. But, it's another fee. The government, well, we've got to make sure that our waterways are safe. So you have to take a course, and pay us for it. And you can't go out on the water if you don't have it. I'm surprised they haven't done the same thing for canoes, that you have to have a boating license to operate a canoe out on the water. Oh, yeah. It's another tax. You have to have a fishing license to go and catch fish, right? Unless you can prove that you are destitute and need it for food. What? This is in Ontario. Rocker? I think Rocker is in Tennessee. Oh, Jesus, you're down in Whitby. I'm up in northwestern Ontario. I'm in Fort Francis. I know where Whitby is. I used to live in Dunnville. That's south of Hammertown. I've got a friend that lives in, oh, come on. East of Oshawa. Oh, I can't think of the little town's name now. But anyways, I used to drive through Whitby all the time when I was hauling wood products out of Caledonia. But Whitby is a good 21-hour drive up here, or 5 hours if you get a flight from TO to T-Bay or TO to Winnipeg. But the fishing up here is just fucking amazing. If anybody watches, the fishing channels, the ones that are on syndicated television, those guys will make 2 trips a year up to this area. I know, like Bob Izumi, he would come up to Lake of the Woods twice a year, once in the summer for open water fishing and once in the winter for ice fishing. Now the ice fishing is done. Your son is where? Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm having a hard time reading stuff here. Bear with me a second. Time to get a pair of these. Trout and salmon. Oh yeah, there's very little trout and probably less salmon here. What there is muskie, northern pike. Muskies are a goodie too, Graham. It's a good fish. And the first weekend in September is when the fishing opens here in Ontario, or first weekend in June, sorry, is when the fishing season opens here. And one of our First Nation communities, they have a fish fry on the opening day. Yeah, there's bass. I'd have to get somebody that does a lot of fishing. They'll know which lakes to hit for the bass and which lakes to hit for trout. But in the river and Rainy Lake and Lake of the Woods, muskie. And the First Nation people, they can pull out the sturgeon. And that First Nation community, it's Manitou First Nation. They put on a fish fry, and it's free. It's a free fish fry. They have smoked sturgeon there. It is to die for. And then tons and tons and tons of walleye. Yeah, walleye is good. Yeah, so I try and make it there every time they do that, and they probably serve about 3,000, 4,000 meals in the space of a couple hours. Just about everybody from the district goes there to get a dinner on that day. So it is busy. It used to be that they put the food out on a table and you'd line up and get the food, but it has gotten so big and so busy that they now box the food and you just line up and grab. If you're grabbing for yourself or 3 or 4, however many people you're grabbing for, right? So that way you can, park your family at a picnic table and just one person goes and grabs all the meals for the whole family. Cuts the line down, makes it move quicker, because then you don't have kids, dawdling in the line trying to pick and taking forever to load up a plate. And then parents, they can pick out of their kids, and it's fun. I get to see and meet a lot of people there. Sometimes that's the only time of the year that I see them. But the parking can be a nightmare. Sometimes the one year I had to walk damn near half a mile from the nearest parking spot I could find just to get in. So I guess, Bryant, Graham then? Bryant, I am 61. Yeah, I've been around the block a day or two. My hometown is Dunnville, down on the mouth of the Grand River, just before it dumps into Lake Erie. I'm probably going to take a drive down there again this summer. I'll go see my mom and dad. Okay. Bryant, thank you for coming in. I hope you hit the screen twice or the like button or whatever to give the channel a like. I appreciate it. And you have yourself a good night and a better day tomorrow. And hopefully you wake up again tomorrow, Lord willing. Yes, I've had shark. Yes, it's kind of a blandish fish. Now, Graham, I'm sure you've had it in the Philippines, fresh tuna, especially when you get down to Davao or to Jensan. Oh, there, I can barely, eat tuna here now after having it fresh in Philippines. It's unbelievably tasty. I loved it. But there, um, it's an expensive fish there too. I forget how much a kilo it was, but it was the gals made it very clear. That's something that they don't get often because it is expensive. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back to the Philippines again. I I miss the people. I miss the climate somewhat. I miss the scenery, the countryside. You know, very different from here, but I find it quite appealing. I just got to find a job that will take me down there on a regular basis. Yeah, nothing is cheap, and I heard that fuel now in the Philippines is uh, gone through the roof. They're pushing uh, over 150 pesos a liter. Shit, when I was there with Lovely, I would fill up her scooter, which had a 1 gallon tank, and it was just under 200 pesos, about 190 to fill it. And that's with the needle bouncing on the empty line. Now that same tank will be 600 pesos. Like, holy shit. That's ridiculous. That's a threefold increase in fuel price. How can they justify that? Because the price per barrel hasn't increased threefold. I would say that somebody somewhere in the Philippines is gouging, and it's probably the refineries that are gouging. They're seeing it as an opportunity to make a shit ton of money. Because believe it or not, the Strait of Hormuz only moves about 25% of the world's oil. But it has that big of an effect on our price. I think everybody in the oil industry has blown the blockade out of proportion just to justify gouging, charging ridiculous prices. Because Saudi Arabia, for instance, they've got a pipeline that goes right out to the Suez to the Red. No, that's not the Red Sea. Or is it? Anyways, it's the other body of water on the other side of Saudi Arabia that then leads into the Suez Canal. That can be taken right into the Mediterranean. So, there's no reason they can move that oil. It doesn't have to go through the Strait of Hormuz. Hello, Hans. Your English is not so good. You know what? You can put it there in German and I can still read it because my ancestry comes from Holland and I read Dutch. Yeah, I get it, Graham. 5,000 pesos. That's 125 bucks Canadian. Not even now with the exchange rate. You're welcome, Hans. Yeah, $125 Canadian to live, quite well. And that's over and above your condominium, I'm sure. And there's Americans there. There's one I know of that is paying 1,000 American a month for big 5-bedroom waterfront house. But it's a 5-bedroom house. It rivals some of the real, the nicer houses along the waterways in Miami. And you know what those houses go for? You can rent those houses, but it's like 10 grand a month down there. Still cooking. Oh my goodness. You must be making a dinner for 100. 7 courses even. Yeah, yeah, of course. Of course, there's a lot, there's a lot of things in the Philippines that, you only know about if you've been there, for some time, or you know somebody that lives there. There's even costs in the Philippines that, a lot of Filipinos don't understand exist. And that was something when I was in Mati. Um, One of the first nights that we were in town, we went down to the Bay Walk, and we got over to a friend of one of Lovely's friends had a coffee stand at the Bay Walk. So we went over there to have a coffee. And I ran into the uh, director of the LTO for Davao Oriental and the governor of Davao Oriental sitting there having a coffee, and they invited me to join them, and we got talking, and it was quite an interesting conversation with those two. I got to see inside some of the politics of their country and of their area. And John, told me, if I want to buy a car, just he gave me his number, and I still have it in my phone. He told me if I want to buy a car, he'll, just give him a call, and he'll look out, take me or meet me at the office, and get the whole thing done. Right. Even the governor, uh, offered some connection for things if I wanted to do them. But that comes with a price too, because they'd want to be part of it, part of any business dealings that I undertake there, right? Because let's face it, they have the power to stop it. But if they're part of it, hey, guess what? If their hand's going to get greased, they're going to make sure it goes forward. Anyways, it is after 10. Tomorrow I have to get my truck ready. I'm heading out of town again on Monday morning. I'll be leaving early Monday. I got a 3-hour drive to a job, and I got a long day to get everything done when I'm there. I've got one unit that went in there. It's three, almost like motel rooms, in one building, and another one that is a portable classroom. It arrived in two pieces, and I put it together. And then they added a kitchen to it afterwards, which I had to install. Um, and when the kitchen cabinets arrived, they didn't ship me all the doors. There was doors for two cabinets that didn't arrive, and they finally arrived. They got here yesterday. So now I get to go and install them. And that three motel room unit, before it left our yard, they installed, or I installed one cabinet in a location where a stove would be pushed in or put. And the electrician come in and wired in the big plug for the stove, and a plug for the microwave above the stove, right, or the range hood above the stove. But in order to get to the electrical panel in each unit, they tore the wall apart. Well, that wall never got put back together before it left here. Where all the supplies are, all the tools are, nobody checked on it, to see if the unit's ready to go. They just pinned it and left. Yeah. I should have known better. I should have walked over and, inspected the damn thing here when I found out, oh, it's going in 4 days. But, not my responsibility. I'm the one that does the work, I'm not the one that's to make sure that, everything's ready to go. Oh, you have a Filipina girlfriend. Okay. Ah, yeah. Was it Janice? Yeah. But you never, ever, 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 ever win with a woman. All you can do is, try and make her happy and duck when you don't. And don't ever buy her a cast iron frying pan. Them fucking things hurt. My trick when I was in, still living down in southern Ontario, we had the largest rose greenhouse just up the road 4 kilometers. So if I knew I fucked up, I'd go to the greenhouse first before coming home. And I'd either get her, a bouquet of roses or a bouquet of Gerber daisies, which they also grew. I'd bring that with me. Then, everything was smoothed over pretty quickly, especially if I brought her the daisies. I know I said it too loud. I'm sure Christina heard me. So, Christina, I'm never going to buy you a cast iron frying pan. Graham, it's been a slice having you here in my stream. I am going to wrap it up for the night. I did want to come on and say hi to everybody, but my eyes are getting extremely tired from looking at screens. After 3 hours of looking at Hardy's screen and now trying to read all the chat for mine, they're starting to ache. So I am going. Rocker's still here. I'm going to wave to all of you. Say have a good night. We'll see you another day. Be good, and if you can't, don't name it after me, please. Okay.